Oh, hello YouTube! Today in the Naughty Librarian, I am doing my August wrap-up. So in case you guys are wondering, yes, I am wearing a cape. Jealous. August was kind of a decisive month because there was basically a lot of good books and a lot of bad books. There weren't really any meh books. I'm gonna do this in a little different format of a wrap-up. Just kind of doing them like in categories that are different. Category 1, 2 books of the same series. For this category, I have The Perfect Play and Taking a Shot, both by J.C. Burton, and they're both part of her play-by-play series. It's kind of a hit or miss series for me because half the books of the series I've read I loved, and half I read and I didn't like that much. So that happens to be the case here. I really liked Perfect Play quite a bit. It's the first book of the series. This is the story of Mick and Tara, and Mick is the quarterback of a fictional San Francisco football team, and Tara is like a single mom, and it's their romance story. And I really liked it quite a bit. I really liked both the lead characters. I thought they were very interesting. I really loved it. It's super smutty and delightful. It has so many smutty delights in it. Highly recommend. So much fun. This is book 3 of this series, and I did not like it as much. The heroine is Jenna. She's this guy's little sister, and I really loved her in the other books. She was so sassy and witty, and I really liked her. However, in this book, she was just so whiny. Ugh, oh my gosh, just whine city. So yeah, this one fell really flat for me, mainly because I did not like Jenna in her own story, but I liked her in other people's stories, which was odd. A good thing I could say about Taking a Shot is the fact that Jenna is very much confident in her sexuality. She's not like the blushing woman in this who like lets the man lead everything. She knows what she wants and she asks for what she wants, so I appreciate that factor of it. I just wish she was so much more decisive in everything else. Like, she was great for the sexual aspect, but other than that, she was just whiny, and I didn't like her that much. The next 2 books of this wrap-up are What Happened to Goodbye by Sarah Dessen and Little Monsters by Kara Thomas. Both of these books are kind of similar in theme, where they're both YA stories about a girl who feels kind of displaced because she just moved to a new town. So they both have that in common. However, if YA is a spectrum, these are at polar opposite ends of the spectrum. What Happened to Goodbye is so lighthearted and wonderful and kind of PG rated, if I'm being honest, whereas Little Monsters is so dark and twisted. Like, this is an R-rated book and it's for teens, so like far opposite ends of the spectrum. What Happened to Goodbye is the story of McLean. She's a girl who moves around with her dad a lot, and every time she moves to a new town, she kind of invents like a new personality for herself and makes different friends. And this kind of starts off when she moves to Lakeview, her most recent town, and she kind of starts becoming herself again. This is not a book I would normally pick up because it looks kind of sappy, but I actually ended up really liking it. All the characters were kind of quirky and fun, and I really enjoyed them. It kind of gave me like a Freaks and Geeks kind of vibe, even though it really isn't similar to Freaks and Geeks at all, but like it has that kind of like underdog, heartwarming feel, so I ended up really liking this. On the other end of the spectrum, with Little Monsters by Kara Thomas, I also loved this, but for very different reasons than I liked What Happened to Goodbye. This is very dark, very twisted. This is about a girl named Casey who moves to a small town in the Midwest to live with her father, who she has never met before. And so there's a kind of sense of isolation there, and it's also just about how teenage girls can easily become monsters when the wrong influences are impressed upon them a bit. Because there's like an inherent anger in being a teenage girl, and basically this is what happens when you get pushed in the wrong direction for that anger, and someone ends up murdered. And honestly, the killer, oh my gosh guys, the killer. I did not see the killer coming at all. Oh my gosh, I was so surprised. Like, I was like, oh, what? So I highly recommend if you're looking for a good mystery and you don't want to know who the killer is, because you will be so surprised when you find out. It was juicy and dark and wonderful, and I loved it. Next category in my wrap-up is set in the real world with a twist. First up, I have Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Carriger. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The best way to describe this, it's kind of like a tea party with a knife fight. Side note, all the names in this book are ridiculous. Her name is Sophronia. Like, whose name's Sophronia? And I kid you not, there is a woman named Mrs. Barnacle Goose. Barnacle Goose. Regardless of the silly names. It's about a girl named Sophronia who is kind of wild, and her mother sends her to finishing school. However, this finishing school also teaches the fine art of espionage, and I really liked it. It kind of had tongue-in-cheek humor. It was like steampunk-esque. I don't think it's going to be the series for me because I don't feel like I'm going to continue with it. I'd rather part as friends now than keep reading the series and learn to hate it. But from just the first book, I really enjoyed this. Also set in the real world with a twist, I have White Hot by Alona Andrews. This is a continuation of her Hidden Legacy series. It's book 2, and I love this series with a fiery passion. It's so good. It has a little bit of smut finally, because the first book had 0 smut, and this one has like a little. It feels very cinematic in scope, so I feel like it would be good as a movie. Like, when I'm reading it, I feel like I'm watching a movie. So I really enjoy this. It has excellent characters. Our lead heroine is Nevada Baylor. She's a private investigator and also has superpowers because in this world magic is real. And she's solving crimes with other people who can like use magic, so hence there's a lot of strange action sequences with like tornadoes of fire and like otherworldly creatures attacking. It's really interesting. I really like Nevada because she's so dope. Like, she's so dope. She doesn't need anyone to save her. She's really kick-ass. She's funny. She's really loyal to her family, who are all also very quirky and weird. So I love all the characters. I love all the action. This is an excellent series. Highly recommend this. Last category is debut books. The first debut I have is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. The characters in this are so charming. The whole thing was charming. I was fully charmed by it. That's the best way to describe it. It's the story of Lucy and Josh, and essentially they are each other's nemesis. They work in the same job position, and they are competing now against each other to be promoted. And they both hate each other. Hate each other. Hate is very similar to love in that respect, where you're both obsessed with each other. And throughout the course of the book, they find out they're in love. And it's actually not a smutty book. There's only like 2 sex scenes in this. And while they are explicit, it's not the most explicit thing I've ever read. And the main focus of this book is their relationship and them growing as characters. So I really enjoyed it. I like the character building. And there's this scene towards the end, I don't want to spoil it, but Lucy defends Josh in this whole like public like shaming of this person who's being mean to him. I put the book down and slow clapped. It was that good. If you're looking for like a charming romantic comedy, like this is it. Like, I really recommend this. The other debut I read this month was Nyxia by Scott Reintgen. I think his name's Reintgen. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. This is basically the story of a group of teenagers who were all selected for this mission by a company named Babel, and they all have to go into space, and they want them to go to this other planet named Genesis and mine for Nyxia, which is this like substance that can become anything with a thought, so hence is like the most expensive substance in the world. Genesis is already inhabited by people, however they're less likely to kill children, hence the teenagers on this mission, they're less likely to get murdered. But that is not all that meets the eye, because this is actually a competition. They have like 10 kids on the ship, but only 8 of them are gonna go to the planet. So they're all competing against each other all the time, and their scores are constantly on all the walls. So it's a little bit of like psychological trauma here, where they're just always competing and they're always like at that razor edge. And it's very good character-wise. They have so many different characters from all over the world. They have a girl from Africa, they have a boy from China, they have a girl from Japan, they have a boy, Emmett, who is our lead, and he's from Detroit. So they have widely different groups of people, and they all have their own identities. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the story, that all the characters were very interesting and inclusive. So I really liked that quite a bit. And this was a debut, and I honestly didn't believe it was a debut. It was that well written. It's so like juicy, like on a psychological level, like his thought process and how like it's very easy to become a monster in this type of setting, and how he's like, I don't want to be a monster, so how do I like defend myself from becoming that? And it's so good. It's so good. It's coming out soon. I actually was lucky enough to get the arc from the publisher. So please check it out. It comes out in September. It is amazeballs. Those were all the good and one like not so good book of the month. Sadly, I have enough bad books I read this month to create its own video for them. That's how many there were. So I will make a new video of just bad things. But yes, August was an interesting month. I read a lot of books. Please comment down below, have you read any of these books? Which ones were your favorites? Which ones were your least favorites? Are you excited to read any of these books? Let me know down below. Let me know if there's anything you think I should definitely be reading in September. And I will put links to my written reviews down below so you can check those out if you want to. And make sure you like this video and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!